I'll never forget the first time I saw her. It was a Monday morning in mid-October, one of those rare Los Angeles days when the sky looks bruised and the ocean wind makes you second-guess your decision to wear a t-shirt. I was standing in the foyer of my glass-walled mansion in Pacific Palisades, sipping my double espresso, when she walked in holding a bucket and a rag like she was about to change my life. She was new. I knew that immediately because I never forget a face, especially not one like hers. Long, dark hair tied back in a simple braid, no makeup, olive skin that glowed under the overhead lighting. Her eyes were big, brown, and wary. I'd seen that look before, especially in people who worked for me, like they were waiting for me to snap, to criticize, to remind them who was boss. I've built a reputation, I guess. But when I looked at her, I felt something different. Something off script. "Morning," I said, watching her flinch. "Good morning, sir," she replied, barely above a whisper. I wanted to ask her name. I wanted to offer her coffee, even though I never shared coffee with the staff. But I didn't. I just nodded and let her pass, brushing a hint of lavender and something warmer, maybe cinnamon, as she walked by. Her name was Elena. I found that out later from my estate manager, Carla, who casually mentioned that the agency had sent a temporary fill-in because one of the regulars was on maternity leave. I pretended I didn't care. But I remembered the name. I rolled it around in my mind like a secret. I'm a man used to getting what I want. I didn't come from money. I built my empire brick by brick, software first, then real estate, then investments. I've got fingers in every pie on the West Coast and enough clout that no one dares say no to me. But when it came to Elena, I didn't want to command or demand. I wanted to impress her. And that terrified me. At first, I only saw her once or twice a week. Then, I started changing my schedule to match hers. I'd work from home on the days she cleaned the guest wing. I'd cancel meetings just to be around. I started leaving little things around the house, my leather jacket on the banister, books on the counter, just to spark a conversation. "I like this author," she said one day, her accent barely there. She held up my copy of The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I looked at her, genuinely surprised. "You read McCarthy?" She smiled, a shy but confident little curve of her lips. "I used to want to be a writer." That was the first real thing she ever told me. After that, I was hooked. I started walking her to her car after work. I bought her lunch from the cafe down the road without asking what she wanted, I just guessed. She always said thank you, even when I got it wrong. Slowly, her guard started to slip. She told me she was originally from Santa Fe, that her mom had passed a few years ago, that she lived in a small apartment in Silver Lake with her younger sister. That she worked 3 jobs just to keep them afloat. I admired her. Not in the way men say they admire beautiful women. I genuinely respected her. There was strength in her that most of the people I dealt with every day didn't have. But this, whatever it was between us, didn't stay a secret for long. It started one evening when I invited a few close friends over. Old college buddies, hedge fund guys, the usual crew. We were having scotch by the fire pit, the Pacific stretching out behind us in that smug, endless way it always does, when one of them, Jason, of course, leaned in and said, "Who's the girl, mun?" I played dumb. "What girl?" "The maid. The new one. Don't act like we didn't see her. She's, wow." There was a flicker of tension in the air. Just a flicker. The kind that meant something unsaid was starting to bubble up. "I mean, seriously," Jason continued, swirling his drink. "You always go for the models, the actresses. Never thought you'd go slumming." The others laughed. Not harshly. But the kind of laugh that sticks to your skin like humidity. I felt something in me twist. Not just because they were objectifying her, though that was part of it. But because for a second, I realized how stupid it would sound if I told them the truth, that I liked her. That I was thinking about asking her out. That I hadn't been this interested in anyone in years. And then the worst thing happened. Brent, my old roommate from Stanford and the most arrogant of the bunch, leaned back and said, $100 says you can't even get her into bed." The group exploded with laughter, but my jaw clenched. I was drunk. Not wasted, but loose enough to say something I'd regret. So I did. "You're on." The words came out of my mouth before I could stop them. And the second I said it, I hated myself. I knew better. I wasn't that guy. I didn't need to prove anything to these jerks. But pride is a funny thing, it comes in dressed like confidence and leaves you naked in a room full of mirrors. After they left, I stood in my kitchen, staring at the marble countertop, the smell of whiskey still on my breath, and thought, what the hell are you doing? I didn't sleep that night. Not because of guilt, though that was there too, but because I kept seeing her face. Not her smile. Not her curves. Just her eyes. The way they looked when she let herself trust me. The softness. The risk. And now, I'd tainted it. The next day, she was back. Cleaning the upstairs hallway in one of those oversized t-shirts that somehow made her look even more breathtaking. "Elena," I said, walking up slowly. "Can I talk to you for a second?" She turned, startled. "Of course, Mr. Reed." "Call me Nathan," I said, forcing a smile. She nodded. "I was thinking, maybe you'd let me take you to dinner sometime." "Just dinner. No expectations." Her eyes searched mine for a moment. She hesitated. Then she smiled, small and uncertain. "Okay." Just like that, she said yes. And I felt the floor tilt beneath me. We went out that Friday. I took her to a little place in Malibu, quiet and low-lit, the kind of place celebrities go to avoid being photographed. We laughed, we talked about books and food and her dreams of being a novelist. I didn't try to touch her, not even when we said goodbye. I just let it be real. And it was. Over the next few weeks, things grew. Slowly. Organically. She let her guard down. I let mine down too. For the first time in years, I wasn't performing. I was just being. Until last night. That's when it happened. She finally let me stay the night. We were in my bedroom, both of us nervous, like teenagers. It wasn't just sex. It felt like something bigger. Something terrifying and wonderful. But this morning, everything changed. Because when I walked into the kitchen, she was already there, her arms folded, her eyes rimmed with tears. And beside her, on the counter, was Jason's phone. Unlocked. Open to a group text thread. One that included me. And a message from Brent that read, "So, did you win the bet, or what?" The silence in the kitchen was louder than any scream she could have let out. She didn't speak. She just stared at me like I was a stranger, a man she thought she knew, suddenly wearing someone else's face. I stood frozen, the smell of fresh brewed coffee mixing with the metallic sting of shame in the back of my throat. "Elena," I said, reaching toward her, "please, just let me explain." Her arms tightened around her body like she was bracing for impact. "Explain what?" she asked, her voice so calm it terrified me. "The part where you made a bet with your friends about sleeping with me? Or the part where you pretended to care just long enough to win it?" I shook my head, feeling the panic rise up from my chest like a wave. "No. It's not like that. It started like that, okay? I won't lie. That night. I said something stupid. I was drunk and trying to save face. But after that, I swear to you, it stopped being a game. I started falling for you, Elena. I still am." She laughed. A bitter, dry sound that didn't reach her eyes. "You started falling for me?" She looked down, shaking her head. "That's rich, coming from a man who let me believe all of this was real. Who smiled at me, kissed me, listened to my stories about my sister and my mom, while a bunch of overpaid frat boys waited for their punchline." I felt sick. She had every right to hate me. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal, it was the doubt in her eyes. Like she didn't know what to believe anymore. Like I had become the lie. "Elena," I said, softer now, "they didn't even believe I could get close to you. That's why they said what they said. I tried to ignore it, tried to forget it even happened. But I kept seeing you, talking to you, and I realized I didn't want to win anything. I wanted you. You wanted me," she repeated slowly. "And yet, you never told me the truth. You just let it play out, hoping I'd never find out. I had no defense for that. Because it was true. I should have told her the moment I realized I was falling. but I didn't. Because part of me was terrified she'd walk away. And now she was about to. She turned, grabbing her bag from the counter. "I quit," she said quietly. "Tell Carla I'll finish the week, but after that, I'm done." "Elena, wait." But she was already gone. The house felt different after that. Quieter. Emptier. I kept walking past the rooms she used to clean, hoping for a glimpse of her. Hoping she might still show up, even if just to tell me off again. But she didn't. Carla asked no questions when I told her to give Elena a paid week off. "Family emergency," I said, though we both knew I was lying. I could see the judgment in her eyes. She'd been with me 10 years. Knew all my faults. Probably saw this one coming before I did. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of whiskey, replaying everything. Her laugh. The way she tilted her head when she was confused. The way she touched the pages of books like they were fragile treasures. And the look in her eyes when she read that message. That's the one I couldn't shake. A few days later, Jason called. I didn't answer. Then Brent called, too. Left a voicemail I didn't bother listening to. They could go to hell. But I wasn't done. Not yet. The next morning, I drove to Silver Lake. I knew where she lived, she'd mentioned the street once in passing. I parked across from her building and waited. I had no plan. Just guilt and a dumb hope that maybe, just maybe, she'd give me a minute. She came out a little after 9 a.m., hair tied back, dressed in jeans and a hoodie. No makeup. Still the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "Elena." I called out, stepping out of the car. She froze. Her hand tightened around her keys like she was ready to use them as a weapon. "I'm not here to harass you," I said, keeping my distance. I needed to say something in person. Just give me 2 minutes. If you still want me gone after that, I'll never bother you again." She hesitated, then sighed and crossed her arms. 2 minutes. Go. I swallowed hard. I didn't chase you for a bet. Yes, it started with that stupid conversation, but everything after that, every text, every dinner, every second we spent together, that was real. You made me feel human again, Elena. Not a billionaire. Not a boss. Just a guy who liked a woman who was smarter, kinder, and stronger than anyone he'd ever met. You opened up to me. You let me in. And I betrayed that. I know. But please believe me when I say I'd take it all back if I could. She stared at me, unmoved. So what? You want me to forgive you and play house like it never happened? No, I said, shaking my head. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know the truth. That I fell for you in spite of that moment. That I fell because of who you are, not what you do or how you look. You were never a conquest. You were the one thing in my life that wasn't about status or power or games. And I ruined it. She looked at me for a long time. I couldn't read her expression. There was pain, yes, but something else too. Conflict. I need time, she said finally. And space. I don't know if I can trust you again, Nathan. I nodded. I understand. And if your friends ever show up near me again, I swear. They won't. I cut them off. For good. She blinked, surprised. Seriously? Yeah, I said. They laughed about what they did. About hurting you. I couldn't look at them the same way after that. Something shifted in her face. Slight. Almost invisible. But I saw it. A crack in the wall. I've got to go, she said, stepping around me. I didn't follow. I didn't say anything else. I just stood there as she disappeared down the street. The days after that were torture. I threw myself into work, trying to forget the way her voice broke when she said my name. But I couldn't. I checked my phone constantly. No messages. I thought about sending flowers, a letter, anything, but I knew that'd only make it worse. A week passed. Then 2. And then, one evening, Carla knocked on my office door. There's someone at the front gate asking for you, she said. Says her name is Elena. I stood so fast I nearly knocked over my chair. When I got to the gate, she was standing there, arms folded, looking as unsure as I felt. "I'm not here to forgive you," she said. "Not yet." "I understand," I said, heart pounding. "I'm here because I realized something," she continued. "I've been surrounded by people who only ever wanted something from me. Sex. Labor. Silence. You hurt me, yes. But when I walked away, you didn't chase me with excuses. You gave me space. You let me breathe. And maybe that means something." I held my breath. "So," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "if you still want to try to actually get to know me, without lies or bets, then maybe we can have coffee." I swallowed hard. "I'd love that." She nodded slowly. "But," she added, eyes narrowing, "one wrong move, and I walk. No second chances." "Understood." As I opened the gate and let her walk into my world again, this time on her own terms, I couldn't help but wonder if I'd be able to make her see the man I was trying to become. Not for her approval, but because of her. It's strange how something as simple as a coffee can feel like standing on the edge of a cliff. We met at a small cafe in Echo Park, one of those quiet little places with too many plants and not enough outlets. It wasn't my usual spot, no valet, no suits, no photographers hiding behind oversized menus, but it was hers. I wanted to meet her on her ground, not mine. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table near the window, her hands wrapped tightly around a chipped ceramic mug. Her hair was down, and she wore no makeup. She didn't need it. She never had. I hesitated before walking over. It wasn't fear exactly, it was something deeper. The sense that this woman could undo me completely, and I wouldn't even resist. She glanced up as I approached. No smile. Just a nod. An invitation, but a guarded one. I sat down across from her, unsure of how to start. "Thanks for meeting me." "I almost didn't," she said flatly. "But I kept thinking about how you showed up at my building. Not with gifts or apologies. Just honesty." I nodded. I meant every word. She stirred her coffee slowly. "I still don't know what to believe. One minute, you were kind and thoughtful. The next, you're the guy who made a bet about sleeping with me. I know. And I'm not interested in hearing about how your friends pressured you or how it was just a joke. I don't care about them. I care about what you did." I leaned forward, folding my hands. It was a moment of weakness. But the feelings that followed, that wasn't weakness. That was me seeing you for who you are. And realizing I'd never met anyone like you before. She looked at me then. Really looked. Her eyes were softer than before, but there was still a storm behind them. "What exactly do you want from me, Nathan?" I thought about that for a second. Really thought. "I want to earn your trust," I said. "I want a second chance, not to win, not to prove anything, but to show you who I really am. Not the guy at the fire pit with the whiskey and the ego. The guy who sat across from you and talked about books. The guy who actually listened." She sipped her coffee. "That guy was easier to like." I smiled, just barely. "He's still here. Just less polished than I pretend to be." A silence settled between us. Not hostile. Just uncertain. Then she said something that caught me completely off guard. "You know what I hate most about all this?" I shook my head. "I started to trust you," she whispered. I let my guard down. That doesn't come easy for me. Not with my history. "What history?" She looked down at her mug, like the story was floating there in the foam. "My father left when I was 8. My mom worked 3 jobs and still couldn't keep the lights on half the time. Men came and went. Some were kind. Most weren't. I learned early that love came with terms. Conditions. And when something felt too good to be true, it usually was." I swallowed hard. "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "I don't want pity. I just want to understand how someone like you, someone with everything, could see someone like me and decide I was a game." I took a breath. "Because someone like me didn't know what real connection looked like until you showed up." She didn't answer right away. But she didn't get up and leave, either. That felt like a small miracle. Instead, she said, "All right. Let's say I believe you." "What now?" "Now," I said slowly. "We take it slow. No pressure. No expectations. I want to spend time with you. Learn what makes you laugh, what drives you crazy, what scares you. Not because I want something from you, but because I want you." That got a small smile out of her. Not much, but enough to spark something warm in my chest. "Okay," she said. "But you're not off the hook." I wouldn't want to be. The next few weeks were different. Beautiful, in a quiet, unspoken way. She agreed to see me once a week. No dinners at five-star restaurants. No chauffeurs or private chefs. We walked in Griffith Park. Browsed bookstores in Los Feliz. Shared tacos from a food truck near her neighborhood. We talked about everything and nothing. I learned that she used to write poetry in high school, but never showed it to anyone. That she had a scar on her ankle from climbing a fence as a kid. That her favorite movie was The Hours, but she secretly loved bad action films, too. She learned that I hated my first million. That I spent 3 years after college sleeping in my car while coding out of Starbucks. That my dad died before he ever saw me succeed, and that my mom, whom I'd bought a mansion for, still refused to use the hot tub because it felt too fancy. We were two people learning to be human again. But even with all that, I could feel the distance still lingering between us. She'd laugh, then quickly stop herself. Touch my hand, then pull away. Like a bird testing the air before flight. And I didn't push. I just waited. Hoped. Then, one Friday evening, we sat on a bench by the reservoir as the sun went down. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I want to trust you," she said quietly. "I really do." I turned to her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then let me keep showing you why you can." She nodded. "Okay." And she kissed me. Not a long kiss. Not the kind that belongs in movies. Just a quiet, gentle press of lips. A promise, not a climax. But as I kissed her back, I felt it, the weight of everything we'd been through, beginning to lift. Until my phone buzzed. I ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Finally, she pulled away, brows knitting together. "You can check it." "I don't mind." I looked at the screen. 3 missed calls. All from Carla. And 1 text message. "You need to get back to the house now. Something's wrong. Very wrong." I stood up slowly, heart suddenly racing. "What is it?" Elena asked. I don't know. But it's urgent." She stood too. "Do you want me to come with you?" I hesitated. Then nodded. "Yeah. Please." We drove in silence, tension mounting with every mile. When we pulled into the driveway, Carla was waiting on the steps, pale and shaking. She handed me a small envelope. "This was taped to your bedroom door," she said. It was addressed to her. She looked at Elena. Elena took the envelope slowly. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single photo. It was of me and Elena, taken the night she stayed over for the first time. Through a window. Grainy. But unmistakable. And underneath, scrawled in thick black marker, was one sentence. She was never supposed to win. For a moment, everything around us froze. The photo in Elena's hands trembled slightly as she stared down at it, lips parted, not breathing. My stomach dropped like a trapdoor had opened beneath me. I stepped forward. "Elena. I swear to God, I didn't send that. I didn't even know that picture existed." She looked up at me, her face pale and unreadable. "Then who did?" I turned to Carla, but she just shook her head, clearly shaken. "I found it when I was cleaning. I didn't touch it, didn't open it. I thought she should be the one to see it." I looked back at Elena. The look in her eyes, it wasn't anger. It was hurt. Deeper than before. The kind that takes root in the bones and doesn't let go. We stepped inside the house. I closed the door behind us, locking it, as if that would somehow keep the outside world from slipping through the cracks. Elena sat down at the edge of the couch, the photo still in her lap. She didn't speak. I paced, trying to put the pieces together. It had to be one of them, I said finally. Jason. Brent. Or someone else from that night. Someone who knew about the bet and wanted to keep twisting the knife. She finally looked up. Why? If you cut them off, why would they still come after me? I hesitated. Because I embarrassed them. Because I made them look small. These guys, these circles, they're not used to losing. Especially not to someone like you. Her brow tightened. Someone like me. I didn't mean it like that, I said quickly. I meant someone who doesn't play their game. Someone who doesn't care about money or power or who their father plays golf with. You're a reminder that they don't own everything. She sat back, processing that. So this is about revenge. I nodded slowly. And control. They want to scare you off. Humiliate me. Prove that I can't walk away from them and still have something they don't. Elena stood up suddenly. I'm not scared. I looked at her, stunned. Maybe I was, at first, she said, her voice steadier now. But this? A grainy photo and a vague threat? No. If anything, it proves how pathetic they are. A strange swell of pride rose in me. You're incredible, you know that. She raised a brow. Don't push it. I smiled. Fair. Over the next few days, I went into damage control mode. First, I had the house swept by a security team. Cameras. Bugs. Anything suspicious. We found one small motion-activated lens hidden in a light fixture outside the kitchen window. High-end, discreet. Someone with money had placed it there. I had it removed immediately and filed a report. No fingerprints, no clues. Just confirmation that someone had been watching. Then I went digging through old emails and text chains. Anything I might have missed. And that's when I saw it. An unread message from Brent. Sent the morning after Elena found out about the bet. She's cute, but not worth the fallout. You'll thank us later. I stared at it for a long time, pulse pounding. He'd all but admitted it. They didn't just talk about her, they interfered. I showed it to Elena that night. She read it, then handed the phone back without a word. What do you want to do? I asked. She exhaled slowly. Nothing. Not yet. They want us to lash out. To fight them on their level. We don't give them that satisfaction. And if they don't stop. She looked at me, eyes steel. Then I stopped being polite. That weekend, I took her to a jazz bar downtown. Low lighting, clinking glasses, warm brass in the air. She wore a simple black dress. No jewelry. Still, every man in the room looked at her like she was the centerpiece. Over a second glass of wine, she leaned in. You ever think about what we're doing? I blinked. What do you mean? This. You and me. You're this successful, powerful man. And she shrugged. Me. You, I said, are the only reason I still care about anything real. She smiled, but there was something behind it. Doubt. I just wonder, she said, how long it'll take before someone else tries to break this. People like your friends, they don't give up. I reached across the table, taking her hand. Then let them try. The following Monday, Carla knocked on my office door again. She held a manila envelope. This came through your legal firm, she said. Marked urgent. I opened it. Inside was a cease and desist order. From Jason's attorney. Claiming I had defamed him. That I had threatened him, slandered his character, and created a hostile environment within our shared professional network. I laughed bitterly. Unbelievable. Carla looked at me. What does this mean? It means they're scared I'm going to expose them. So they're trying to flip the script first. Elena came by that night. She read the letter quietly, then tossed it onto the table. They really don't like losing, do they? Nope. She glanced at me. So what's the next move? I was thinking, I hesitated. You might not like it. Try me. I want to go public. She frowned. Public? Like, media? I nodded. Not about the bet. Not the details. Just the truth. That I walked away from that world because I couldn't stomach the people anymore. That I met someone who reminded me who I used to be before all the money and politics. She stared at me for a moment. That's bold. It'll cost me, I admitted. Contracts. Invitations. Maybe some clients. She stepped closer. And you'd really risk that? For me. I reached out and touched her cheek. I'd risk it because of you. Because this, us, means more to me than playing nice with men who don't deserve my time. She took a deep breath. All right. Let's do it. We recorded a short video. Nothing dramatic. Just me sitting in my office, speaking plainly. About how success can make you blind. About how the people you trust aren't always your friends. About how sometimes, the richest thing you can have is honesty. We never mentioned Elena by name. But I made it clear, she changed me. And I wasn't going back. I posted it. Within hours, it went viral. Some praised it. Others mocked it. A few former colleagues called me dramatic, accused me of trying to rebrand. But one thing became clear, the ones who mattered respected the truth. And the ones who didn't. I was better off without. Elena watched the video with me that night. She didn't cry. She didn't gush. She just slid her fingers between mine and said, "You didn't have to do that. But I'm glad you did." And for the first time, I felt it. Not just love. Peace. But peace never lasts. A week later, I came home to find the front gate spray painted with one word. Liar. And a note taped to the front door. If you think this is over, you really don't know who we are. I didn't hear the glass break at first. It was subtle, almost like a whisper under the low hum of the kitchen fridge. But when I stepped into the foyer and saw the shards spread across the marble floor, and the brick lying innocently in the middle, I knew something had changed. This wasn't just harassment anymore. It was escalation. Elena rushed in behind me, her breath catching. Oh my God. I pulled her gently behind me, stepping carefully through the glittering mess, trying to skin the shadows outside the broken window. Whoever threw it was long gone. No note this time. No clever message. Just violence. I called security, then the police. Standard protocol. They came, took photos, made polite murmurs about increased patrols. But I could tell by their eyes they didn't expect to catch anyone. People like Jason and Brent didn't leave fingerprints, they left warnings. And this was a message loud and clear. They wanted me to know I wasn't untouchable. Elena was quiet the rest of the evening. She sat on the couch, arms wrapped around herself, her eyes following every creak and shadow like a hunted animal. It killed me to see her like that, after everything we'd been building, all the progress we'd made. I'll get us out of here, I said softly, sitting beside her. Just for a while. I've got a house up north, near Big Sur. Private. Gated. You'll feel safe there. She shook her head. Running doesn't change what they are. No, I agreed. But it might give us the space to breathe. She finally looked at me, and I saw it, fear, yes, but something else too. Determination. A quiet kind of defiance. Then let's go, she whispered. We left the next morning. No fanfare. No assistance. Just us and 2 duffel bags tossed into the back of my Jeep. The Pacific Coast Highway stretched out before us like a promise, waves crashing against cliffs, wind whipping through the trees. It felt like we were shedding a skin. By the time we pulled up to the house, glass walls, cedar beams, a view that looked like a postcard, we were both silent. Not tense, just contemplative. Like we'd stepped into a different life entirely. We spent the first day in a kind of suspended peace. Cooking simple meals. Watching the fog roll in over the hills. Making each other laugh with stories from our awkward teenage years. She even read me one of her old poems, reluctantly, blushing the whole time. It was beautiful. Like her. Raw and honest and aching. That night, as we lay in bed beneath a wide skylight showing 1,000 stars, she whispered, "Do you think they'll stop now?" I wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. "No. But I think we're stronger now than they are." She didn't respond, but I felt her exhale against my chest. A soft, warm breath that said, maybe. Maybe that was enough. But peace, as I've learned, is a fragile thing. And it rarely comes without cost. 3 days in, I got a call from my lawyer. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. "You need to sit down." "I'm listening," I said, already pacing the deck. "They're filing a formal lawsuit, Jason and Brent. Defamation. Character damage. Breach of verbal contracts. They've hired a PR firm and they're going public." I laughed bitterly. "So they're flipping the script." "Exactly. They're framing you as unstable. Claiming Elena manipulated you. That she seduced you as part of some plan to break into your world and sabotage your business relationships." I stopped cold. "They're going after her now. They've already started. Rumors are spreading. Old photos from her social media. Half-truths and lies wrapped in just enough fact to sound believable." I felt the fury rise like a fire in my throat. "I want to counterattack." "I figured you would. But think carefully. A full media war means dragging everything into the light. Every detail. Are you both ready for that?" I hung up without answering. I didn't tell Elena right away. I wasn't sure how. But she knew something was off the second she saw my face. "What happened?" she asked. I sat her down, explained everything. Her hands stayed in her lap, fingers twisting into knots. "They're using me," she said quietly. "Again. As a weapon against you." "No. They're trying to. But they won't win." She stood abruptly, walking to the edge of the glass wall, staring out at the ocean. "Do you remember when we first met? When I dropped that tray of glasses and thought for sure you'd fire me?" I smiled despite myself. "You looked like you wanted to disappear." "I did. Because men like you don't give second chances. At least, that's what I thought. But you didn't yell. You helped me clean it up. You told me it was just glass. That it wasn't the end of the world." I got up, moved beside her. "It wasn't then. And this isn't now." She turned to me, eyes blazing. "Then let's fight back." That night, we sat down and filmed another video. But this time, she sat beside me. Elena told her story. About growing up poor. About being underestimated. About falling for a man she didn't think she deserved, and then discovering that maybe, just maybe, she did deserve love after all. I spoke after. Not about power or betrayal, but about choice. That I chose to leave those men behind. That I chose to love someone real instead of clinging to the illusion of control. We didn't name names. We didn't stoop. We simply told the truth. And once again, the video exploded. Except this time, something shifted. People started coming forward, former employees, assistants, even one of Jason's exes. Anonymous posts on forums. DMs from burner accounts. All echoing the same thing. "You're not alone." I saw what they did too. I wish I'd spoken up sooner. And then came the big one. An email. No name, no photo. Just a short message. "They had a camera in your bedroom. Hidden in the smoke detector. I installed it. I'm sorry." Attached was a grainy photo of a floor plan. My house. With markings over every device they'd bugged. I showed it to Elena with shaking hands. "They were watching us," she said, her voice like ice. "Even after I left." I nodded. "This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about exposure. Justice." She looked at me. "Then let's give them the spotlight they're so desperate to control." We contacted a journalist. A serious one. Investigative. A woman known for taking down corrupt CEOs and power-hungry moguls. We gave her everything. Names. Evidence. Testimonies. The hidden camera photos. It would take time to publish. To fact-check. To protect the sources. But it was in motion. And in the meantime, we made a choice. To stay visible. To keep going out. Holding hands in public. Smiling. Laughing. Refusing to be afraid. Because if there's one thing bullies hate, it's being ignored. A week later, I got a message from my mother. She'd watched every video. Read every article. Her voicemail was short. I'm proud of you, Nathan. Don't let them take your soul again. And for the first time in months, I let myself cry. Not from fear. But from hope. But of course, it didn't end there. Because the deeper you dig, the darker it gets. And we hadn't hit bottom yet. Not until I saw the footage. Real-time surveillance. Sent to my private inbox. Of Elena. Alone. In the parking lot behind the grocery store. And a man in a black hoodie walking up behind her. The footage hit me like a punch to the chest. Elena. Alone. Her back to the camera. Pushing a grocery cart across the dim parking lot behind the market in Monterey. Just a casual moment, a quiet errand. And then, out of nowhere, he appeared. A man in a dark hoodie, walking up behind her, not rushing, not aggressive, but intentional. Like he knew her. Like he was supposed to be there. The video cut off just as he closed the distance. No context. No follow-up. No sound. Just a single line of text beneath the video. You can't protect her forever. I don't remember standing up. I only remember knocking over the chair as I grabbed my keys and bolted to the car. Elena didn't answer her phone. 3 rings. 4. Straight to voicemail. By the time I reached the store, she was already in the Jeep, calmly loading groceries into the trunk. I nearly tackled her trying to check for injuries. Elena. I shouted. Are you okay? Did anyone come near you? She blinked, confused. No. Just an old woman asked for directions. I pulled out my phone, showed her the video. Her face changed instantly. That's from today. I nodded. Just minutes ago. Sent to my private email. She looked around the parking lot, her eyes scanning every car, every corner. They're watching us again. No, I said, jaw tight. They never stopped. That night, back at the house, I brought in my head of private security, Holt, an ex-Marine with eyes like granite and a no BS attitude. 3 possibilities, he said, setting down his tablet. 1, they have someone following her in person. 2, they've hacked into public surveillance, possible, but harder. Or 3, there's another camera we haven't found yet. Elena folded her arms. How would they have planted one here? We've barely left the house since arriving. They might have done it before you arrived, Holt said. Or bribed someone local to do it after. He looked at me. You said this property was built 10 years ago. Yeah. But I've updated the security system twice since then. Still. Doesn't mean much if the threat is coming from inside. That word stuck with me, inside. I sat back, thinking. Then I glanced at Holt. Run a full sweep. Inside and out. And check the cleaning service. Landscapers. Plumbers. Anyone who's had access. He nodded. You got it. While Holt and his team turned the house upside down, Elena and I sat on the deck, watching the sky go from gold to black. She was quiet. Too quiet. You're not safe with me, I said finally. They won't stop. Not until they feel like they've won. And they never feel like they've won. She didn't look at me. You think I don't know that? Elena. She turned suddenly, her voice sharp. I grew up around men like that. They just didn't wear suits or drink $80 scotch. But they were the same, manipulative, entitled, dangerous. You think I don't see what's happening? I was silent. She continued, softer now. I'm not scared of them, Nathan. I'm scared of you pushing me away to protect me. Like I'm some fragile porcelain doll instead of the woman you fell for. I took her hand. I'm not pushing you away. I'm trying to hold on to the only real thing I've ever had. Her voice cracked. Then don't do it by shutting me out. The next morning, Holt returned with news. We found something. He dropped a small black object on the table, a pinhole camera, no bigger than a paperclip, hidden inside a wooden beam above the living room window. It was transmitting via a low-frequency signal, encrypted. Professional grade. And not cheap. I felt sick. How long has it been there? Could have been months. Could have been planted while the house was being cleaned after your last stay. Or, he hesitated. Or someone on your staff turned. Elena's brow furrowed. Carla. No, I said immediately. She's been with me for 9 years. She's loyal. Holt gave me a look. Even the most loyal people have pressure points. Check her, I said finally. But quietly. I want to be sure before I accuse anyone of anything. That night, I got another message. No video this time. Just a short email. One of your own already chose a side. Tick-tock. Attached was a photo. Not of me. Not of Elena. Of Carla. Sitting alone at a coffee shop in San Francisco. Across from a man I didn't recognize, but who wore the same smug look I'd seen on Brent 1,000 times. My heart sank. I confronted her the next morning. She was waiting in the kitchen, as if she already knew. I didn't betray you, she said. Not really. Carla, I said slowly, I need the truth. She looked up, and I saw the exhaustion in her face. They approached me months ago. After the fundraiser. Said they wanted to make sure you weren't being manipulated. Said Elena was a con artist. That she'd done this before. Which isn't true, I said. I know that now, Carla said. But I didn't then. They offered money. Not a lot. Just enough to pass along little things. Travel plans. Security changes. Nothing sensitive, I thought. And the cameras? I didn't know about those, she said firmly. I swear to you. When I realized what they were doing, I tried to back out. But they threatened me. Said they'd leak fake financial documents. Make it look like I'd embezzled from you. She broke then. Shoulders trembling, eyes red. I was trying to protect myself. And you. But I see now I only made it worse. I was silent for a long moment. Then I said, you need to leave. Today. Go somewhere quiet. I'll cover everything. But I can't have you near Elena. Not right now. She nodded, wiping her face. I'm sorry, Nathan. Truly. I know. Elena didn't say, I told you so. She didn't need to. Instead, she sat with me that evening, watching the ocean again. And for the first time, I realized just how far we'd come, and how deep the damage really ran. This isn't just a game to them, she said. This is war. I nodded. Then let's end it. The article dropped the next day. Full exposé. Names named. Testimonies quoted. Anonymous sources confirmed. Details about the bet. The surveillance. The harassment. The smear campaign. And at the center of it, Jason and Brent. Within hours, my phone exploded. News outlets. Legal teams. Old colleagues. Even the Attorney General's office requested a conversation. But the most important message came late that night. From a blocked number. Just one sentence. You think this ends with an article? You really don't know how deep this goes. And attached, a voice recording. A man's voice. Cold. Familiar. We could make her disappear, you know. Accidents happen. Cars crash. People go hiking and never come back. My blood ran cold. Jason, I whispered. Elena looked up sharply. What is it? I turned the phone toward her, jaw clenched. This just got darker than I ever imagined. I couldn't sleep that night. Not after hearing Jason's voice. Not after imagining Elena vanishing into thin air, all because I dared to love someone beneath my supposed status. It wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. The kind only powerful men make, believing no one can touch them. And if I'd learned anything in the past few months, it was this. Jason didn't bluff. But neither did I. Elena was asleep when I slipped out of bed. I stood by the window for a long time, watching the ocean churn beneath the moonlight. Every instinct in me screamed to run. To take her and disappear. To erase ourselves from the map. But if I did that, if I hid, then they'd win. Again. And that wasn't the man I wanted to be anymore. That wasn't the man she deserved. By morning, the house was in lockdown. Holt had brought in 2 more security specialists, both former military, both dead silent and alert. I didn't want Elena to know everything, there was no point in scaring her unnecessarily, but she wasn't stupid. "You're gearing up for something," she said over breakfast. "What is it?" I sighed, setting down my coffee. "I have a plan. One they won't see coming." She studied me for a moment. "And what's my part in it?" I blinked. "Your part? You're not." "I'm not what?" she asked, arching an eyebrow. "Not capable. Not involved. Nathan, I've been dragged through every mile of this with you. Don't start sidelining me now." I looked at her, really looked. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't protecting her anymore. We were protecting each other. "You're going to hear things today," I said carefully. "See sides of me that may not be pretty. But you need to trust me." "I already do," she replied. "More than I've ever trusted anyone." Step 1, set the bait. I called Jason. Direct line. No assistants, no lawyers. "Meet me," I said. "Just you and Brent. No press. No games." His voice dripped with arrogance. "Why would I do that?" "Because I'm ready to settle this, face to face. One way or another." He paused. "Where?" "My office. Midnight. Come alone." He laughed. "You know we won't." "I'm counting on that." Step 2, build the trap. My office in San Francisco sat empty for months. I'd kept the lease out of nostalgia, but tonight, it became something else entirely. We installed hidden cameras in every corner. Wired the place for sound. Holt's team swept it twice, ensured no bugs could be planted in return. 2 plainclothes officers sat 2 blocks away, ready to move the second we had what we needed. Brent and Jason would come expecting leverage. They had no idea they were walking into their own confession booth. Step 3, let the monsters speak. They arrived right on time. Brent looked smug as ever, wearing a Rolex I'd once gifted him. Jason wore a charcoal suit and a grin that could curdle milk. "Thought you'd finally grown a pair," he said, taking the seat across from me. "I don't need to impress you anymore," I replied calmly. "I just need you to talk." He raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "About Elena. About the cameras. About the threats. You know, just 2 old friends clearing the air." Brent chuckled. "You've gone soft, man. Letting some maid wrap you around her finger." Jason leaned forward, voice low and venomous. "You think this ends with a newspaper article and a sob story on social media? We've survived worse. We own worse. You're nothing without us, Nathan. We built you." I smiled. "Then I guess it's time I rebuild myself." Jason stood. "You should be careful. Accidents happen. Girls like her. They disappear every day." That was the line. That was all I needed. Holt's voice crackled in my earpiece, "We got it." And then, the doors opened. 2 detectives walked in, badges raised. Jason Cole. Brent Simmons. "You're under investigation for unlawful surveillance, harassment, and conspiracy to commit assault." Their smugness cracked instantly. "What the hell is this?" Brent barked. "You're setting us up." "No," I said coldly. "You set yourselves up. Jason laughed bitterly as the cuffs clicked around his wrists. This won't stick. You know who we are. Yes, I said. And now the world does too. The fallout was swift. The footage leaked within hours, Jason's threats, Brent's arrogance, every vile thing they said behind closed doors. News networks ran with it. Corporate sponsors pulled out. Civil suits piled up. And Elena. She didn't hide. She sat beside me during the first press conference, wearing the same simple blouse she'd worn the day we met. And when a reporter asked if she regretted getting involved with a man like me, she smiled and said, "No. Because he stopped being one of them. That takes more courage than most people have." Weeks passed. The dust settled. Carla reached out from Arizona. She was rebuilding. So was I. Elena's name cleared itself, not through a PR campaign, but through truth. Her dignity. Her refusal to stoop. One afternoon, I found her sitting alone in the garden behind the Big Sur house, sketching something in a small notebook. "What's that?" I asked, dropping beside her. She held it up shyly. "A small design for a community center. A place for women like me," she said. "Who never get a second chance." I stared at the sketch, then at her. "Let me fund it." She shook her head. "Let me earn it." I kissed her hand. "Then let me help." Months later, on a quiet spring morning, I stood with Elena on the steps of that same center. She wore a simple navy dress. I wore my father's cufflinks. There were no photographers. No audience. Just her, me, and the vow I whispered against her lips. "I loved you when I was broken. Now I love you as a whole man." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "You weren't broken. Just waiting for the right glue." Jason and Brent. They cut deals, of course. Men like them always do. But their reputations? Gone. Their companies? Crippled. And while they disappeared from headlines, the stories they left behind still served as a warning. Never underestimate the woman they tried to silence. I tell people now, she was never just a maid. She was a mirror. And when I looked into her, I finally saw the man I wanted to be. Not rich. Not powerful. Just real. And for the first time in my life, that was enough.